I think it's sometimes good to consider the possibility that humanity is hopelessly limited. They say we only see 0.0035% of the light spectrum. And even that, they say, is what you're really seeing is just an interpretation of that tiny sliver in your head. And even if that idea of that tiny sliver, that 0.0035%, that's based on a logical system that if you really look into it, might just be founded on an assumption or evolved out of our animal ancestors. You know, that idea that repetition means something, which leads to, math and numbers and that kind of thing, right? Did it come from like above? Was it divine, uncontextualized math descended on humanity? Or was it more that it evolved out of animal survival? And therefore it might be completely arbitrary. It has nothing to do with the facts of how things really work. A lion needs to. Well, it's the second one. If you can look into history and see that it works that way. It wasn't like, and this kind of goes with that saying, nobody just sat around and came up with math, like the transparent kind of container of abstract math, and then they were like, hey, I guess, wait a second, we can use this to count stuff. That isn't how that worked. So, consider like a lion. It sees 5 zebra, and I don't know if this is a realistic scenario or not. I don't know at what point a lion changes its mind or whatever. But it's like I can't take those down. They're too many. So I'm not going to go after them. They could kill me. That's like big. That's crude math. That's repetition in its perception. It sees 5 of this thing, and its behavior is affected by seeing 5 of that thing. No, and then from that we get this math, and then from that we assume there's something pure about that math that's rooted in animal survival, and then we create this like abstract math, just like pure math, and think that really means something. But what if it's just nonsense, basically? So then that 0.0, because you can see, because if it just comes from this, and then we just project, the animal mind onto everything, and the math works out, yeah. But that's just because our scientific knowledge, using these numbers and stuff, is just sort of it just can be traced back to the lion looking at the zebra. That's the reason it works, because we still have animal eyes. We're still looking through the animal mind. Is it true? I don't know. Consider it. So then, that 0.0035% that I mentioned earlier, that we can see that much of the light spectrum. I mean, who even knows that that's true? I mean, that's using that math that originates, as far as like animals hunting or something like that, and other things probably. So even that is like, I can make some big statement, and I see we know so little because we only see this much. But is that even what that logic of that is already kind of up for debate. I can say that we only see 0.0035% of the light spectrum, and it's only interpretation that we distort through the human mind. So we see a very distorted, twisted version of a tiny little sliver. And that's kind of convincing, maybe. But then the origins of those numbers, like I just said, it's very, very, the whole thing is just a little Well, it's okay to question it. I'll put it that way. So then consider that there's nothing. Our current human understanding of things, it's rather scientific. It's not like less than older understandings, but it isn't necessarily more. It might just be a shift, like an angle shift. Consider the possibility that humanity is like a little island in the cosmos, and the human mind only has like a fixed bandwidth of perception in the human band. And this human band of perception, it can tilt the angle at which it observes the cosmos, but it doesn't, you don't widen the band. It has a fixed bandwidth. And so we end up embracing science and then, magic or whatever, older ways of understanding things kind of go by the wayside. Now we've tilted towards that, and like it's like there's a light. It's like the human mind shines a light on the cosmos, and it shifts. Now there's science, and now the older understanding is in the dark. It isn't that it's less true. It's just not. It's not. All we're doing is changing our angle. It's like we're shining a light at the cosmos, and we can change where we hold the light, but we can't make the light larger. We can't widen the light. So it's like humanity is a little island in the cosmos. Now consider it's like for every piece of knowledge we bring in, we have to lose something. Like a way we're putting it, there's an island, and it's like there's the people, the cosmic beachcombers, so to speak, the people who are bringing in, who are really at the edge of our understanding of things, and they're bringing in information. Like, for example, time as the fourth dimension. Whenever that was a more controversial idea, that's spotted on the shore, on the cosmic shore. This artifact, they pick it up and they bring it inland, and they convince the masses or the collective consciousness to accept it. It's kind of a stretch. It's just able to, but it just is able. It's just close enough to the understanding of things at that moment that it's able to be kind of digested by the collective consciousness. It's able to become part of our understanding, and because it was such an edge thing, it's like an outlier. See, the outliers are what cause this tilt shift to occur. So that's like an outlier, and then the band of perception shifts because of that outlier. And maybe some older understanding, is kind of dropped because of that. So we replace magic with science. We replace, Newtonian physics, right? We replace that with more modern physics, that kind of thing. Certain things get dropped, and Newtonian physics replaces something else, right? Back then it replaces it. It's just a long chain of this kind of tilt shifting. And while there are these cosmic beachcombers on one side of the island bringing this stuff inland, on the other side of the island there's a cliff that's where we're like dumping off this old knowledge. Put it another way, there's a volcano erupting, and that's on one area of the island, and that's the new knowledge. But then there's also a cliff falling apart on another area of the island, and that's we lose that much for that much whenever we gain some. The cliff is breaking apart. We're losing this more. We're like late. I mean, based on the way things are going lately, we lose sort of finer sensation type stuff for more number based type stuff. Like, I know this is a very vague way of putting it, but like but I think you understand what I mean. Uh, and anyway, that's why this video is probably going to call it the cosmic tide theory. That's something that that's a term that I've used to describe this kind of thing. I think it's I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think I wanted to share it. So the interesting possibility here is that, see, if this is the case, we're never going to get at truth through the human mind, because the human mind is band limited. You can shift it around. We can pretend we're making progress. We're not really making progress. We're just changing our angle. And every time we say, okay, this is the real one. This is the real one. This is the real one. When magic was the truth, what some older thing was not, was relegated to being not true. When science is the truth, magic is relegated to not being true. When something that we don't even know yet it becomes the truth, now then science goes by the wayside. You see? And if in a way this seems like a way of looking at human history with a little more humility, thinking, no, we don't just happen to be at the point where we just figured out the real way it works. In fact, I don't know that we can figure out the way it works. I mean, think about this band limited thing. I don't think we can figure out the real way it works. Because I don't even know that things like magic and science and these sorts of things, I'm not even sure that by the time they get to us, are even like an accurate little sliver of the truth. So we shine a light at the cosmos and we get interpreted as magic or science or whatever. And it goes into the animal mind. The animal mind has to interpret this somehow, and it interprets it through pattern recognition. But what if the truth of things is not patterned, or it's a non-repeating pattern? It's not repeating. It's and therefore a pattern recognition software, which in the human mind, it has to try to break it apart. It has to somehow find a pattern in something that isn't patterned like that. It's not repeating like that. No, what's going on is constant raw uniqueness. Raw uniqueness. That's the nature of things. That's truth. The human mind can't comprehend that. It breaks down. It can't do it. It just can't. And so it ingests raw uniqueness. Somebody's combing the cosmic beach. They see raw uniqueness, but then immediately, as soon as they put it into words, as soon as they try to communicate it, now they're like, time is the fourth dimension. But that's not what they saw. They were looking at raw uniqueness, and to be able to say anything about what they saw through the human mind, it has to become unsalvageably corrupted in a sense. It has to become lossy beyond recognition. And because if that's the case, then we're never going to get at even a sliver of truth. We aren't even really getting, these are like snapshots of truth that are so lossy that they don't really tell us anything about truth ultimately. Now, if you do the thing, which is in the description, you might notice when people meditate, then that's kind of doing the thing that's in the description. This is meditation. I mean, in my opinion, it's meditation. Maybe you disagree, that's fine. But if you meditate, people meditate and then they say things that seem like, oh, they've discovered something about chakras, or they've discovered something about, some whatever. They have an upbringing that has certain terms, and then they say them, and they think this is confirmation of their existence. But what if these things are discovering? It's just, think about it. It's like the collective consciousness, the human mind. It like has its current little snapshot, like a more science-oriented snapshot. Obviously, there are people. It's not entirely science-oriented. There are people who are kind of rather woo-woo and whatnot. But in meditation, you sink down into previous snapshots. So you sink down. You get very still, and you sink down, and then you think, oh. And then you encounter some piece of ancient knowledge. You think this confirms this ancient knowledge was correct because I sank down to this point and look, I found this ancient knowledge here. This old artifact. I've watched stuff on the cosmic shore a long time ago and has been mostly left in the dark. We're shining light somewhere else mostly now. And look, I found it. And it's true, right? I don't know about that. Because don't you see that that's also just a snapshot of something that's potentially non-repeating. The chakra system being just arbitrary stuff. It's like science. I mean, it's not less true than science. It's not more true. It's just another arbitrary thing that's so hopelessly degraded by the time that it's been put into words that, you're not really going to get a truth that way. I don't mean to single that out or anything. It's just an example. So then how can you get to truth, right? If truth is non-repeating, it's incomprehensible by the human mind. Well, I can tell you some ways to approach it. When you do the thing and you meditate, you get sink deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. You're potentially you're going through the history of humanity in a certain sense, if what I'm saying is true. The perceptive history of humanity. But if the perceptive history of humanity is pure distortion, pure band-limited distortion, don't get too attached to any of the observations you find along the way, but any of the things you discover along the way. Just keep getting deeper. And I believe that the state between being awake and being asleep, like hypnagogic state or something like that. I think it's called something like that. Sorry if I'm not saying that right. Notice you always have these like epiphanies there. If you can manage to lock in that kind of state, feel the feeling of having the epiphany there, but not immediately running back to the human mind to try to make sense of it, because you're feeling something that cannot be put into words. It can't be. It's non-repeating. It's beyond it's not comprehensible to the human mind. So resist the urge, and I think, things like synchronicities you come across and that kind of thing. There's such an urge to say, all of that is just the lossy distortion of the human mind. It insists on finding patterns in something that it's another putting it in a way like, well, truth is not going to be arrived at through the incessant pattern making of an animal mind. The pattern making is degradation. History doesn't repeat itself. If you really look into it, history does not repeat itself. It's only because of simplifying things that it repeats itself. That we insist on it for some reason. The self, your identity, is not really repeating. If you really, 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 really look into it, the more granular you get, the more subtle differences arise, and the more it becomes clear that it is not really repeating. At least that's how it seems to me. So is it possible to almost get into this sort of hypnagogic state, or whatever you call it? Kind of have that constantly being in that state and somehow lock it in. Lock in the feeling of the epiphanies you have in that state. Lock in that feeling for good. To be free of the nonsense maker, the human mind. Is that, I wouldn't say that's the goal here. I don't know if that's the goal here. I don't know if there is a goal. I'm not sure there is a goal. But that's a thing that would be an interesting thing, wouldn't it? So anyway, that's the cosmic tide theory. Um, Now, for this channel, I've been uploading daily, but I think that that's maybe just kind of inundating. Uh, it's kind of like maybe inundating my few subscribers. Thank you to my few subscribers. Inundating their feeds with kind of like, it's just too much. And I'm not sure that, I don't even know if like it's good for uh, people finding my videos to be uploading daily at the moment. So I think I'm going to walk that back, or go back to like one video a week, one or two videos a week, probably one for now. After I upload this one, then I'll switch to like once a week. And if the channel picks up more steam, I'll be uploading maybe with a bit more frequency than that. But I think once a week seems good for now. This video is actually I have like 8 videos or something that I recorded before this one, but I wanted to record this. I'm going to put this one out of order. I'm going to upload this one right after recording it, and partially because of this announcement at the end, but also I just think that this little theory is very interesting, and I think it's kind of like some interesting background information for this channel. So I just wanted to get this uploaded. So anyway, if you like that, please subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Bye.